My name is Gemma and I am the clinical lead for South Yorkshire Bassett Law Stroke Hosted Network. I'm a speech and language therapist and I also lead the Rotherham Stroke Rehabilitation team. And Liana's asked me to talk to you today about the remote working, and I've kind of thought of it a bit bigger in terms of workforce and how we deliver our services for the future. So if we move to the next slide. So I keep sharing this quote time and time again. I remember when COVID struck us 4 months ago, we were inundated with guidance and protocols and SOPs and risk assessments, and this quote stood out for me because it really got across how I was feeling and how my team were feeling, that actually this virus has presented our NHS with its biggest challenge it's ever faced since its creation. It celebrated our 72nd birthday last Sunday, and to say that this is the biggest challenge in 72 years is enormous. But the way that we responded was nothing short of amazing. The staff were so dedicated and they were so flexible and they were so resilient. It was quite humbling to be part of. So I do like to share that quote. So if we move to the next slide. So COVID meant that we had to work differently, but it also meant that we had to rapidly apply innovation in practice. Liana's been working in this way for years and years and years, and I feel quite late to the party. But actually, you know, this way of working is not just during a pandemic, it's for the future of stroke services as well. But we had to work in this way because NHS England issued guidance, and their guidance said that we had to step down our community services, that we could only maintain our ESD services, and that we could only see people that would fall in a high priority. So that meant that our patients that fell into a medium and low priority would potentially be left with no support at all. So we really needed to rapidly adopt remote rehab, and we needed to do it quickly. If we move to the next slide. So my team, who are amazing, were quite worried about this group of stroke survivors. How would we support them? And we stumbled on a system called Accurix. And I say I stumbled on it because just before lockdown, I had to go into isolation. My little boy had a cough. So for 2 weeks, I was at home. Within one day, I'd got a team member to drop a laptop on the doorstep for me. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have a go with this. And I was sent the most awful guidance that just put me right off. But I thought, you know, I'm going to still do it. I'm going to have a go. And I used Accurix, and I made a video call to a support worker in my team, and it was the most simple thing I've ever used. And I just thought this could work. So I introduced it to my team, and they did. They flew with it. But not only Accurix, they flew with Microsoft Teams. And within weeks, we were doing remote family meetings through Microsoft Teams. So we were able to have family meetings in the hospital because we weren't allowed visitors. Was restricted on visitors, but we were able to get family members to join and be part of discharge plans. But we went a step further from that. One of the physios in my teams actually set up a Microsoft Teams meeting and had family members from Spain join. And I just think that's not something that we can let go of. We need to carry that into the future, because more often than not, family members who are local just get invited to the family meetings, and those family members who are not local aren't part of that decision. I think that's definitely something to carry forward. My team have been doing remote swallow assessments, remote language therapy, remote physiotherapy. We even have delivered in-service training through Microsoft Teams. Which again is something to take forward into the future, because people have been able to join when it's not been the working day. but they wanted to be part of the in-service. We've had team members who are shielding and isolating who've been able to be part of those, and I think it's just been so valuable and something to take forward. And we've been able to do remote multidisciplinary team meetings, so patient-focused discussions over Microsoft Teams, and review caseloads. And we're not experts at all, but we're finding our way. Let's move to the next slide. So this is a case study of a 53-year-old stroke survivor who was discharged home, and he was just needed some mobility practice. So he fell really quite comfortably in the medium to low priority, and under guidance wouldn't have met the criteria to have a face-to-face visit. So the physiotherapist sent him some exercise sheets, and as we all do with exercise sheets or handout, we put them in the pile on the kitchen side and probably don't really pay any attention to them. So there were further discussions in the multidisciplinary team meeting, and it was decided that our support worker would offer some video consultations, and it worked really, really well. And he had, I think, 4 or 5 video consultations, working on his mobility and his balance and doing like Tego type exercises. And he was discharged from therapy. And I just wonder, had we not had Accurix and had we not had remote rehab, how could his story have been quite different? So if we move to the next slide. So the other thing that has really taken off in our team is that we've produced some YouTube videos. So I liken this a little bit to Joe Wicks and his exercise programs, but I call it the Rehab Coach. So we've developed a series of videos for the upper limb and 2 levels of chair-based exercises that are more focused on Atego, some facial muscle exercises, and we've done a mindfulness video as well. So these are YouTube videos that we can direct our patients to for the benefit of them continuing their exercises at home. And actually the video on facial muscle exercises, we did make that quite a few years ago, and it's had over 700,000 views, and it featured in the Telegraph a patient, I can't remember where he lived, but he was able to use the exercises to rehabilitate himself while he couldn't access services during COVID. So all those links are there and will be shared, I hope, after the webinar. So if we move to the next slide. And then I just wanted to talk as well about the explosion of webinars and CPD and training and access to training. I think it's absolutely amazing that we've been able to put on a webinar today for over 500 people from across the world. That's outstanding. We'd have never been able to do that. It would have cost a fortune for a venue. People wouldn't have had the travel expenses paid. So I really do believe that this way of teaching and this way of learning and this way of connecting is definitely something that we want to hold on to. And just in the short space of 3 months, I've been part of and hosted 4 webinars, and everyone's like, how do you fit it in? How do you find the time? And that's the joy. It doesn't take any time. It doesn't take so much effort. It's hardly stressful at all. So I definitely think that webinars and this virtual remote way of delivering training is absolutely something to hold on to and take into the future. Next slide. And then finally, I just wanted to share this model with you. So this is a model called the Sensemaking Model, and it's how we respond to crisis. So there's things that are old practice that we've stopped doing, but we want to restart. So that seems like group therapy that we want to pick back up, face-to-face visits. And then there's things that we stopped doing that were old practice that we don't actually want to carry on doing, that we want to let go of. And when I did this with my team, those were things like one-off visits to check in. They could actually be done remotely. And then there's new practice that we started that we want to end. So that's things like we started to work 8 in the morning while 8 at night. 7 days a week. 7 days a week we'll hold on to, but the 8-8 didn't really serve much purpose, we didn't think, for our team. So that's things that we want to end. But I really want you to concentrate for a moment on the amplify. So this is things that we've started, and it's new, and it's things we want to carry forward. And when I've done this workshop with my teams and across the region, every single person said that remote rehab and video consultations is something we want to amplify and take into the future. So if you just move to the final slide. So I say, let's amplify remote rehab. We are amplifying remote rehab. 500 people have joined. That's amazing. But also recognise that to be innovative is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not as a threat. This approach will never replace face-to-face, will never replace hands-on, will never replace face-to-face training, will never replace face-to-face meetings, but absolutely needs to be something for our future that we take into the future to enhance our stroke services. So that's me, and I'll answer your questions at the end. Thank you for listening.